Welcome to this Fiction Brain Masterclass on inciting incidents and strategic setups. Every story has a moment when the before becomes the after. Before the letter arrived, before the body was found, before the stranger walked into town, before the diagnosis, before the offer was made that could not be refused. That is the inciting incident, the moment the event happens. And everything your story does before that moment arrives is the setup. Together, these two things are the fuel for your story. Get them right, and the reader is continually pulled forward from the opening pages. Get them wrong, and no amount of strong writing in the middle will fix what broke at the start. This masterclass is about both of them. We will cover how they work individually, how they work together, and what changes between them depending on your genre. So let's begin with the most misunderstood part of all of this. The inciting incident itself. It is a popular thought that there is a single inciting incident. One specific event that disrupts your protagonist's ordinary world and sets the main story in motion. But in actuality, every story contains a string of inciting incidents. A sequence of events that keep forcing your character to change course. Not just one big bang at the start. How you construct this string is genre-dependent. At their core, inciting incidents create forced change in a situation for a character. Sometimes the change is mild. Sometimes it is dramatically earth-shattering, both to the character and to their entire world. So, how do you know if an event truly qualifies as an inciting incident? Here is the bottom line. These incidents must change the current status quo. And the character must do four things. First, they must recognize the event. Second, they must evaluate its effect. Third, they must decide on a new course of action. And fourth, they must take action that moves the plot forward. These are not events that might matter to the character. They are events that do matter. Immediately and directly to this particular person in this particular story life. Now let's talk about the most important one in the chain. The main event incident. While the first incident may simply place a character on the story road, the main inciting incident is something more. It is the moment the central dramatic question of your narrative is raised. And here is something many writers get wrong. This does not need to happen in the first chapter, or even by the third. For some genres, it is more important for the reader to first understand the character and the world they live in, the day-to-day challenges they face, the focal character's mindset and their capabilities. So how do you test whether an incident is doing its job? Ask the right question. For any inciting incident, the question is not what happens next. The question that needs answering is, what does the character do about this? The incident creates a problem, an opportunity, or a crisis that must be addressed. Without it, the character would simply continue their established routine indefinitely. The main inciting incident is the point of no return. It is something the character cannot ignore and must respond to. Now, there is one more distinction worth naming clearly. The inciting incident and the first chapter hook are not the same thing. The hook pulls the reader into the page. The inciting incident starts the main story. Sometimes they land in the same moment, but often they do not. A thriller might open with a protagonist in the middle of intense action. That is the hook. But the inciting incident, the event that sets the central dramatic problem in motion, might arrive 3 chapters later. So keep these two ideas separate in your mind. One captures attention. The other launches the story. Now, let's turn to the part most writers underinvest in. The setup, what comes before the incident. Many writers focus entirely on the incident itself. They treat everything before it as throat-clearing, something to rush through quickly. That is a structural mistake, and it cannot be fixed downstream. Here's the truth. The setup is everything that makes the inciting incident matter. Think of it this way. If you show a reader a house burning down on the first page, they feel nothing. It is just a fire. But if you spend 30 pages showing a woman who spent 20 years restoring that house, board by board, to honor a mother she could not save, and then you burn it down, the reader cannot breathe. Same fire, completely different story. The setup is the before picture that makes the after meaningful. So how do you build a setup that actually carries that weight? There are 3 things that must be established in every setup, regardless of genre. The first is the normal world baseline. This is the protagonist's routine, their relationships, their environment, and their emotional state before the disruption arrives. The impact of the inciting incident is always measured against what came before. Without a clear before, the reader cannot gauge how much has changed. and they cannot feel why the change matters. The second element is character competency and limitations. This is what the protagonist is good at and what they struggle with. This establishes credibility and it creates tension. When the reader knows a character's limitations before that character faces obstacles, every obstacle carries genuine uncertainty. It also prevents the protagonist from appearing randomly capable or helpless whenever the plot demands it. The third element is stakes anchoring. This is what matters to this character. Their relationships, their goals, their values, what they stand to lose. Show the daughter's laughter before she is kidnapped. Show the hard-won promotion before the company collapses. Emotional investment requires first establishing what can be lost. Without that, the stakes remain abstract. And abstract stakes do not move readers. So those are your three pillars: the normal world baseline, character limitations, and stakes anchoring. Master those, and your incidents will land with real force. Now let's widen the lens and look at the incidents themselves. The Fiction Brain Library Power Tool identifies 18 categories of inciting incidents. But rather than naming all 18, a more useful lens for a working writer is this: understand how they cluster into families. And more importantly, understand how the strongest incidents combine multiple types. These categories fall into several broad families. The first family is discovery and revelation. The character finds something, learns something, or witnesses something that changes their understanding. The treasure map, the diagnosis, the overheard conversation, the body. The second family is loss and threat. Something valued is taken away or placed in danger. A death, a separation, a job, a reputation, a physical capability removed, or the credible threat that any of these things are coming. The third family is opportunity and invitation. Something opens up, a job offer, a windfall, a romantic proposition, a dare, a morally ambiguous shortcut. Opportunity incidents are often underestimated because they seem positive, but an opportunity that changes everything is just as disruptive as a threat. The fourth family is arrival, departure, and identity. The stranger comes to town. The protagonist enters a new world. A transformation reveals who someone truly is, or a character is mistaken for someone else, with consequences. The fifth family is obligation and transgression. A debt is called in. A promise made years ago comes due. A law is broken. A betrayal occurs. A taboo is crossed. These incidents carry the weight of everything that preceded them. But here is where the real power lives. The strongest incidents arrive when you layer these families together. Imagine a stranger who arrives bearing news of an inheritance with a deadline attached. That single moment is an arrival incident. It is also a discovery incident. It is an opportunity incident. And it is a time pressure incident, all at the same time. Layered incidents create complexity. They open multiple avenues for the character to pursue. Single-type inciting incidents tend to be thin. So ask of your own incident not just what category it belongs to. Ask which other types it could incorporate without straining credibility. The strongest inciting incidents are rarely a single clean category. Now let's bring genre into the picture. The universal setup elements apply across all fiction. But what you specifically need to establish before the inciting incident arrives shifts depending on the genre you are working in. Genre creates a reader contract. That contract dictates what readers bring to the opening pages and what questions they expect to have answered. Take the thriller as an example. A thriller setup has one essential element that cannot be skipped: protagonist vulnerability. The reader must know what the antagonist can exploit before the threat ever arrives. The daughter at school. The heart condition. The secret past. The complete absence of combat training. Equally essential is establishing skill sets and resources. Because thriller pacing does not allow for length, this groundwork must be laid efficiently and early. So let's pull all of this together. The inciting incident is not a single event. It is a string of forced changes that keep pushing your character to recognize, evaluate, decide, and act. The hook captures attention, while the inciting incident launches the story. And the setup, the before picture, is what makes every incident land. Establish the normal world. Establish what your character can and cannot do. Establish what they stand to lose. Then choose incidents that layer multiple families together for maximum impact. And finally, honor the contract your genre makes with the reader. Do all of this, and your story will pull readers forward from the very first page all the way to the last.